Incredible journey, Black woman CEO's seat exposed after hidden passenger move flight grounded. Aisha Thompson gripped her boarding pass tightly as the tension in the terminal seemed to hum around her. She was about to board a flight to Silicon Valley, a trip that could change everything for her tech company. As a 34-year-old Black woman CEO from Atlanta, she embodied resilience and the relentless pursuit of the American dream. But here she was, facing a scene that felt too familiar. Her heart raced as she saw the other passengers bustling about, their bright colors blending with the sterile airport gray. Among them, she could almost hear the unspoken doubts echoing, "What does she think she's doing?" Her grandmother's voice rang in her ears, a retired Army veteran who had spent countless hours instilling values of hard work, integrity, and pride in Aisha. The memories flooded back: chilly mornings spent running laps in the park, lessons on standing tall against adversity. Aisha's heart warmed, thinking of her grandmother's smile and how proud she would be today. Boarding was becoming a reality, yet anticipation twisted with anxiety within. As Aisha settled into her assigned window seat, she took a deep breath, envisioning the possibilities ahead. Then it happened. A high-profile executive strolled in, effortlessly claiming her space as if it were his birthright. "Just for convenience," he stated, waving his hand dismissively. Chaos erupted as flight attendants churned into action, bringing phones to ears, shifting gears into frantic negotiating. The atmosphere pulsed a cocktail of excitement and impatience. Fellow passengers exchanged glances, their frustration boiling silently beneath the surface. Aisha felt them sizing her up, their unspoken judgments whispering in her mind. Should she confront the executive and risk an ugly scene? Or hold her ground and preserve her family's honor? With each passing second, the tension thickened, and Aisha felt that familiar tightness in her chest. The flight crew struggled against the looming corporate hierarchy, their unease mirrored her own. Glancing around, she saw silent solidarity in the eyes of fellow travelers. Where was the unity? Where was the strength? With each moment that passed, the image of her grandmother loomed larger in her mind. This was not who they were. Aisha steeled herself, adrenaline surging. The choice before her was no longer about a seat, it was about justice. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue with renewed purpose. Aisha stood. Her voice cut through the chatter, steady and resonant. "Excuse me, everyone," she declared, capturing their attention. "This situation is bigger than one seat. It's about the fight against systemic prejudice and equality. We all share this flight just like we share this space in life." Gasps floated through the cabin. A sense of community blossomed as Aisha's raw honesty resonated with her audience. Fellow passengers began nodding, their doubts unraveling into support wrapped in kindness, a vast shift from skepticism to solidarity. The executive flinched, the power he held visibly waning as others joined Aisha's cause. Suddenly, the flight crew announced an even longer delay. Aisha's heart sank as the urgency mixed with frustration. Would the confrontation lead to justice, or would it threaten everything she had worked for? With tightened fists and a fierce determination rising within her, she awaited the next move. Aisha stood tall, her heart pounding like a drum as the murmurs swirled around her. Fellow passengers looked on, some with skeptical eyes, others with supportive nods. She had become the catalyst for change in an environment that thrived on silence. The realm of corporate protocol had just been shaken. "Listen," she called out, her voice firm as she locked eyes with the executive, who was now visibly sweating, the facade of confidence cracking. "What you see here isn't just about power dynamics in a seat arrangement. This is about representation, about standing against the way things have been for far too long. People began to lean in, drawn to her conviction. A woman in the row across from her wiped a tear from her eye. A father adjusted his seat to get a better view. "I'm tired of pretending that everything is fine," Aisha continued, her voice rising above the murmurs of agreement. "I'm tired of being judged before I even speak, dismissed because of how I look. We need to support each other, to fight against this behavior." The executive crossed his arms, his expression shifting from disbelief to defensiveness. "I'm just trying to get to my meeting," he grunted, his indignation only sparking further outrage. "And there it is!" Aisha exclaimed, the atmosphere thickening with tension. "You think your meeting is more important than showing basic respect for the people around you? It's not just about you." Her heart raced as adrenaline coursed through her. The voices of past experiences echoed around her, reminding her she wasn't alone. Families, friends, allies, people across the cabin were starting to rise in support. One by one, passengers started to voice their own frustrations. A middle-aged man stood a bit unsteadily. "I've been overlooked for years despite my qualifications." His voice quaked, but it was brave. "Exactly," Aisha encouraged him. "We're all here with our own stories, our own battles. The system doesn't make room for us, so we have to make our own space." The flight attendants, initially caught in the whirlwind of chaos, exchanged meaningful glances, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. Aisha could see the wheels turning in their heads. As the atmosphere transformed, even the executive began to squirm, his confidence slowly diminishing. This is absurd," he stammered, but he faltered. The collective strength of those around Aisha felt electric. It was palpable, a force that transcended the confines of the plane. Aisha took a breath to center herself. "We can't let one person's arrogance dictate our lives. We deserve more." Her plea was a rallying cry, and people were ready to respond. A flight attendant stepped forward, hesitant but resolute. "We are trained to maintain safety and order," she said, standing beside Aisha. "But we believe in treating every passenger with dignity. If we allow this to continue, we enable the disrespect." Aisha felt a rush of gratitude towards the attendant, but also a swell of emotion for the fight they were all engaging in. The shared experience of struggle was uniting them, brick by brick. As murmurs shifted into genuine enthusiasm, Aisha wondered if this moment could help fuel something greater, synergizing into a movement that reached beyond this flight. Anticipation hung thick in the air. She knew they had impacted others in ways they may not fully realize yet. Just then, the captain's voice broke over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've been given clearance to depart. However, I cannot stress enough that respect and kindness are paramount. We will be observing the ongoing situation closely." Aisha exchanged glances with the passengers around her. The moment was frozen in time, a win for everyone involved. But deep down, she realized that this was just the beginning. Change had been sparked, but would it last beyond this flight? In wondering about what would come next, Aisha's heart raced. Would they continue to champion equality, or revert to silence when they returned to their lives? As they finally began to taxi down the runway, a voice inside her echoed, "This is just the first step." But what lay just ahead could reshape everything. As the plane began to roll forward, Aisha felt the ground shift beneath her, both literally and metaphorically. The engines growled, vibrating through the cabin like a heartbeat, steady but powerful. She could sense the collective energy buzzing. It wasn't just her singular fight anymore, it was theirs, too. Every face around her carried a glimmer of determination, a spark looking for flame. But what about the executive? His scowl had deepened, but she noticed the way his shoulders dropped slightly, as if a weight pressed against him was beginning to shift. It was a small victory, perhaps, but a victory nonetheless. With every passenger now engaged, treated with respect instead of dismissive indifference, she felt the potential for real change ignite. "Hey, you!" shouted a woman with glasses perched on her nose, her voice catching everyone's attention. "Were you even listening? We've had enough of the status quo." She gestured passionately, drawing out murmurs of agreement from the crowd. "I've spent years feeling invisible," a soft-spoken younger man added from the back, his voice breaking. "Always pushing twice as hard just to be seen." Aisha couldn't believe the words flowing from strangers, people who'd only moments ago been distant figures on a plane, now connecting through shared struggles. It was incredible. She saw heads nodding, tears beginning to flow freely, as they no longer hid their pain behind facades of professionalism. "Right," Aisha said, her energy buoyed by the new voices. "We're all tired. Tired of being overlooked. Tired of fitting into boxes that don't define who we are." She caught the eye of the flight attendant again, who offered a shy smile, emboldened by the growing power of the moment. "Can we build a community?" someone shouted from the middle aisle. "A support group? Whatever we call it, we need a platform to amplify our voices." The murmurs grew louder, the suggestion taking root quickly. Aisha felt a wave of exhilaration wash through her. Yes. A community. Not just on this flight but wherever we go. Let us use our experiences to uplift one another. With each affirmation ringing around the cabin, Aisha felt a deep-seated hope blossom within her. Even the executive was shifting uncomfortably in his seat, like a person who'd just been confronted by a mirror revealing all the flaws he had wanted to ignore. Suddenly, the flight attendant spoke again. "Ladies and gentlemen, it seems we have a situation that requires further deliberation. We'll be returning to the terminal for additional discussions." Gasps rippled across the cabin, hesitation mingling with confusion. Aisha's heart sank slightly. They had risen, broken free into a new narrative. But returning felt like a retreat. She searched for the right words as heads turned to her once more, seeking her guidance. "It's all right," she said, raising her hands as though to calm a storm. "We're here for a reason. We can take this moment to solidify our commitment to change. What happens here can lead us far beyond this flight. We can stand tall together. This situation is an opportunity, not a setback. Remember, every journey begins with a single step." A ripple of agreement flowed through the cabin, energizing the air. People began to exchange phone numbers, ideas buzzing as if the plane had transformed into a launch pad for a movement. As the plane rolled toward the gate, Aisha found herself teetering on the edge of uncertainty. She had opened a door, yet now the reality of what lay beyond it loomed large. Would they be able to carry this momentum into a world full of challenges? And then there it was, the unmistakable call of deeper introspection. What will they do with this power once they land? She held her breath, the question hanging in the air like a new challenge waiting to unfold. Aisha's heart raced as she realized the depth of responsibility resting on her shoulders. Would they unite, or would they splinter back into fragments of silent struggle? As the plane came to a halt, still humming with the energy of the moment, Aisha's mind raced. The passengers were no longer just fellow travelers, they were advocates, seekers of change. She had ignited something deep within them, something that couldn't just be snuffed out by an unexpected return to the terminal. The flight attendant approached with a concerned expression. "I understand this is a difficult moment," she began, scanning the cabin filled with anxious faces. "We're working to understand what's happening, but I need you all to stay calm." Aisha shared a look with her. They were both standing on the edge of something monumental. "This is our moment," she whispered under her breath, rallying her own spirit. "Can we all agree to meet together?" Aisha called, her voice steady and loud enough to cut through the murmurs lingering in the air. "Let us use the time we have while grounded." The noise subsided, and she felt eyes focused on her, waiting. "Each of you has a story, something to share that matters. We can form a network right here, in this cabin. We can brainstorm ideas for what we want this community to look like." People began to nod, some even clapped lightly, emboldened by her words. Aisha could see hesitation starting to melt away, replaced by anticipation. Let us break into small groups, she proposed. Discuss our experiences and what we can do collectively to make our voices heard once we land. Speak freely, this is a safe space. The cabin transformed into a flurry of movement. Faces animated with excitement, passengers turned to one another, laughing and nodding as they grouped up. Aisha felt tears well up in her eyes as relief washed over her. She caught sight of the executive, who had finally removed his headphones. He looked bewildered, almost disoriented by the passionate energy swirling around him. Aisha took a deep breath and approached him. "Why are you here?" she asked quietly, but with conviction. "What do you believe needs to change?" His gaze flickered away before he met her eyes, vulnerability cracking through his guarded demeanor. "I thought this was just another business trip," he confessed, his voice now carrying the weight of silent reflection. "I didn't realize how many people felt the way I do." "Countless people do, people who want to be seen and acknowledged," she replied, encouraging him to see the bigger picture. "You have a chance to help reshape things." He shifted in his seat, contemplating her words. "Maybe I can learn something from this." "Good," Aisha smiled. "Every change starts with understanding." As the plane's door opened, a rush of cool air flooded in, mingling with the warmth of shared resolve. The passengers began to exit, heads held high, their newfound purpose evident in their strides. Aisha felt as if the very air crackled around them with possibility. "Let us rendezvous here in a few days," she called out, her voice ringing through the crowd. "We'll gather what we've discussed and put it into action." The excitement was palpable as they all moved toward the terminal, transformed into a community on the brink of something special. But as Aisha stepped off the plane, an unease settled in the pit of her stomach. She had sparked a movement, but would it hold? Would they find the courage to connect once more after they dispersed back to their daily lives? Just then, she received a message on her phone. It was from the flight attendant, a simple notification that read, "We're still waiting for updates about why we landed. Stay close." Aisha's heart raced again. The journey was just beginning, fraught with undefined challenges. What trouble awaited them in the world outside? The terminal buzzed with confused chatter as Aisha stepped into the vast, unfamiliar space. Her heart still thudded in sync with the excitement that had charged the cabin. Around her, the other passengers trickled into the terminal, some checking their phones, others clustering together, exchanging thoughts on the incredulous turn of events. "Is this place always this busy?" a young woman beside her asked. Her wide eyes darted around, absorbing the chaos. Aisha shouldered her bag and smiled. "It can be overwhelming, but we're all in this together now." The young woman nodded, pulling her away from the uncertainty swirling around. "I'm Maya, by the way. That was something else back there. You really brought us together." "I'm Aisha," she replied, feeling a bond form in that simple introduction. "Thank you for believing in what we can do." They walked together, weaving through passengers who lounged on benches, sat cross-legged on the floor, and connected with the energy that Aisha had sparked. Suddenly, Aisha's phone buzzed again. This time, it was a news alert from a local station. Reports suggest that a technical issue has grounded flights nationwide, leading to delayed departures. Travelers are urged to be patient while authorities investigate. A sense of dread washed over Aisha. The movement she had ignited could easily fizzle out if they didn't act fast. "We need to keep the momentum going," she said, turning to Maya. "What if we organize a meeting as soon as we can?" "Great idea!" Maya exclaimed, her enthusiasm infectious. "We should find a spot to gather everyone who wants to stay involved. There's a coffee shop over there," she pointed, "we can meet there and see how many people want to join." As they maneuvered their way through the crowd, Aisha felt an unfamiliar surge of determination. What if this moment of uncertainty became a chance for transformation? The voices that had once been hidden behind daily routines could emerge into something powerful. Reaching the coffee shop, they quickly snagged a table inside. Aisha sent out a group message, inviting anyone connected to their earlier conversation. Join us if you want to help shape a more inclusive future. Within minutes, familiar faces began to trickle in, drawn by a shared purpose. A mix of emotions swirled in the small cafe: hope, urgency, fear, excitement. Aisha soaked it all in, leading the discussion with energy that felt contagious. "We're here because we each have stories that deserve to be heard," she announced. "Let us brainstorm practical ways we can continue the discussions we started on the plane. What changes do we want to see, both personally and in the larger community?" A wave of voices rolled through the group, sharing ideas, proposing actions. Aisha's heart swelled as passionate discussions filled the air. She felt a connection even amid the uncertainty outside. Comfort and joy radiated from this shared space, but not everyone was as hopeful. One passenger, an older man with weary eyes, raised a brow skeptically. "These are just words. Ideas mean nothing without action." His remark hung like a weight above them, and Aisha sensed the group's energy shift. How could she reassure them that to dare was to courageously strive? "You're right," she responded, trying to infuse some optimism into the atmosphere. But even the greatest changes started as mere ideas. Together we can take the first steps and then turn those words into action. A nervous laugh broke the tension. The older man smiled slightly, and others nodded, fostering a new spark of energy in the room. As the conversation turned lively once more, Aisha caught a glimpse of the executive from the flight. He stood near the entrance, listening intently to the dialogue. Their eyes met, and he gave her a small, encouraging nod. Suddenly, just as the group began to outline a plan to enhance their local community's inclusiveness, the door swung open. Two airport officials walked in, their presence demanding attention. "Could we have your attention, please?" one of them called out, glancing at Aisha. A shadow of anxiety gripped her heart. What did they want? Were they here to shut down their gathering? The air thickened with uncertainty. This could change everything. "Are you Aisha?" the official asked, voice steady. And as the weight of their gaze settled on her, she felt the world shift dramatically yet again. How would she rise to meet that challenge? Aisha took a deep breath, trying to quell the fluttering panic in her chest. The eyes of the coffee shop were drawn toward her, and she felt all the weight of their collective attention. Sensing their unease, she mustered a smile. Even as her heart raced, the official stepped closer, his brow furrowing slightly. "We need to talk with you about what happened on the flight." His voice was calm, but the undertone of urgency sent shivers down her spine. "What did happen?" Aisha asked, her voice steadier than she felt. Maya shot her a reassuring glance, and the group leaned forward, hanging on to every word. "Some of your comments back there," the official continued, "have sparked interest at higher levels." He paused, scanning the room, then focused back on Aisha. "And we'd like to arrange a meeting to discuss those ideas further. Your voice has the potential to inspire a lot of change here." A murmur of surprise spread through the cafe, followed by excited whispers. Aisha's heart jumped at the unexpected twist, but she also felt a twinge of doubt. Could she really be the one to drive this forward? "Of course," Aisha stammered slightly, adrenaline flooding her system. "I'd be open to that, but I need to know what you're expecting." "Just to share more about your vision," the second official interjected, looking genuine. "We're keen on making this airport more inclusive and community-focused. Sometimes it takes an outsider's perspective to really shake things up." A flicker of hope ignited in Aisha's chest. This could be a game-changer. As she exchanged glances with Maya and the others, she felt their shared excitement weave around her. "Can we move the meeting outside of this cafe?" Aisha suggested, eyeing the door leading back to the terminal. "There are people out there who want to join this effort." The official exchanged glances with his colleague, then nodded. "Sure. Just lead the way." As Aisha stepped out into the thrumming hustle of the terminal, a newfound energy surged through her. She raised her voice above the din. Everyone. We're being heard. The gathering crowds turned their heads, curiosity piqued. Aisha felt buoyed by the moment, and as she spotted the executive again, he stepped forward, a quiet endorsement in his eyes. In this cacophony of emotions, wonder, fear, excitement, she saw familiar faces, like Maya's, shining brightly among strangers. We want to rally a movement, Aisha announced, her voice strong. Help us create a community that listens to every voice, that sees everyone. People began to gather. A spontaneous chant rippled through the crowd, we want to be heard. Aisha felt herself caught in a wave of collective hope. They could change things. They could speak out and be listened to. But just as the energy peaked, a folder clutched in one of the officials' hands snapped open, and Aisha's heart sank as she read the first page. Immediate changes to flight schedules and ground operations, and the words meetings can be delayed. Panic surged. Would the moment shatter with practical concerns? Worries tangled in her mind, and she couldn't shake off the fear. What if, just when it was time to push for transformation, the world spiraled back into the obscurity they feared together? She looked out at the growing crowd, their expressions a mix of eagerness and apprehension. Hope and uncertainty rolled in tandem. They were ready to battle for what they wanted, but what hurdles would they have to face next? Aisha felt the weight of that question rest heavily on her shoulders. What if they faltered at this crucial moment? She inhaled deeply, determination burning within. Let us move forward together. She shouted, raising her fist in the air, feeling the energy surge within her once more. But would her rallying cry be enough to carry them through the storm ahead? The energy in the terminal was electric, the crowd pulsing with anticipation. Aisha stood at the center, heart racing. She could feel her friends behind her, their support encircling her like an invisible shield. It was time to harness this momentum. Listen, she began, trying to calm her thoughts as she met the eager eyes surrounding her. I know we are facing challenges, but we're stronger together. We have ideas that can change the way people think about this airport, our community, and even how they travel. The crowd responded with muffled cheers, and she felt a flicker of warmth spread through her. Yet, the voice in the back of her mind whispered doubts. What if the officials didn't take her seriously? What if the meeting devolved into bureaucracy, leaving her only with frustration? Maya, sensing her tension, placed a reassuring hand on Aisha's shoulder. Remember why we're here. You speak for everyone who feels unheard, she said softly, as if sharing a secret. Aisha locked eyes with her friend, drawing strength from their bond. An official cleared his throat, bringing everyone's attention back to him. We want to hear your ideas. Not just for today, but for the future. Every one of you has the power to be a part of something bigger, he said, engaging directly with the crowd. His voice was steady, yet there was urgency there that echoed Aisha's own feelings. Let us start with your vision, shouted a man from the back, raising a finger in the air. The crowd turned to Aisha expectantly. Gripped by inspiration, Aisha took a step forward, breathing in the moment. Imagine an airport, she started, her voice rising, where every corner welcomes you, where resources are shared, and where every story matters. We can create spaces for families, artists, and those in need. We can break barriers. There were nods of agreement, and the vibe shifted. People seemed to lean in closer, allowing Aisha to sense the urgency in their expectations. Here lay the opportunity she had yearned for, a chance to shape a narrative that included everyone. As she spoke, Aisha saw her words ignite enthusiasm. Children in brightly colored backpacks jumped excitedly, parents looked at each other with renewed hope, and even weary travelers paused to listen. Yet amid the hope, the shadow of doubt still loomed. But she pushed that away. Together, we can start initiatives. We can make voices heard. If we build this community, we can act as advocates to ensure inclusivity and accessibility. The crowd erupted into enthusiastic agreement, and Aisha found herself smiling through tears. This really could be the start of something meaningful. Suddenly, an obstructive hand shot into the air, interrupting her thoughts. And what about the delays? What can we do about that? It feels like it always comes back to schedules. Someone shouted. Instantly, the weight of pragmatism sank in. People murmured in distress, recalling their recent frustrations. Aisha's heart sank. How could they push for change when faced with such rolling setbacks? Maya squeezed her hand tighter. It's okay, she whispered. We'll think of something. Taking a deep breath, Aisha scanned the crowd. Let's brainstorm right here, right now. Together. She suggested, finding her voice again. What do we want to propose? What is it that can help us? The crowd was invigorated. Suddenly her worries faded into the background, replaced by energy, ideas, and empowerment. They broke off into groups, voices overlapping in excitement. A movement was starting, and she was in the middle of it, but as the noise swirled around her, Aisha felt a twinge of concern in her gut. Just how far would this journey take her? Would their budding coalition withstand the pressures that were sure to come? With the flicker of determination igniting again, she raised her voice. What if, through our unity, we find the strength to push beyond the barriers? In that moment of uncertainty, Aisha sensed the next chapter unfolding. Something inside her knew they were on the brink of a profound revelation. Could they really tackle the underlying issues that threatened to hold them back? What unexpected challenges lay ahead in their quest for change? The clamor of voices bounced around the terminal, creating a symphony of ideas that echoed Aisha's thoughts. People huddled together, scribbling notes on napkins and pulling out phones to capture each suggestion. The atmosphere felt charged like a storm brewing, full of possibilities. Aisha leaned into this whirlwind, weaving through small groups, eager to hear what everyone had to contribute. Ideas flew at her like shooting stars, illuminating faces filled with hope and determination. A community board, where everyone can list their travel concerns. An art display showcasing local artists. More food options that cater to all cultures. With each concept, the crowd nodded and cheered, their excitement rising. Still, a lingering worry danced at the edges of Aisha's mind. Would their voices truly have an impact? Or were they merely shouting into the void, bouncing ideas off the walls of bureaucracy that would never budge? Then, a voice cut through the joy. What's your plan for financing all these ideas? Words are great, but we need money. A woman with dark, braided hair stood firm, her hands on her hips. The crowd shifted, uncertainty spreading like a shadow. Aisha took a deep breath, holding back her frustration. Everyone had valid concerns, she needed to keep this momentum going. That's a fair point, she responded, acknowledgement softening her tone. But think about it. We start with grassroots efforts. Potlucks, community fundraisers, whatever it takes. We'll show them the passion in our community, and that can attract sponsors. The woman seemed to consider this, her arms relaxing slightly. The crowd took up the idea, murmuring excitedly about local businesses potentially willing to help. Aisha felt hope swell again, but it was overshadowed by lingering doubts. What if we don't get enough support? Maya whispered, stepping close as if she could hear Aisha's racing thoughts. What if we lose momentum? We won tea, Aisha replied, the fire in her voice reigniting. Look at everyone. People are invested. There's no turning back now. The gathering continued, small groups peppering their conversations with laughter and excitement. Aisha felt transported, the last remnants of her fear fading momentarily. Together, they were painting a canvas of community. Soon, someone suggested turning the airport lounge into a co-working space for local artists and entrepreneurs. Inspired, Aisha called for attention. Imagine if we could have local musicians perform here. It would draw more travelers and create a unique atmosphere. We'll make this place unforgettable. The cheers grew louder, and she could see confidence reflected in faces around her. But then, a flicker of apprehension pulsed in her chest. Were they really ready for the scrutiny of officials? Would they be met with indifference? Just as she opened her mouth to speak again, a flash of movement caught her eye. An airport official, previously hidden among the crowd, stepped forward. The murmurs quieted, and Aisha's stomach dropped. The weight of a sudden reality crashed over her. "Are you all ready to face the consequences of this idea?" he asked, his voice low but powerful, holding an authority that rippled through the group. Aisha's heart raced, she could feel the questioning gazes upon her. Was this the moment they were dreading? Could they really stand against the barriers that seemed insurmountable? The official's expression was one of curiosity, but there was also something else: intrigue. What if, in facing him, they could push through the limits? What if this moment held the key to their dreams? The air seemed to thrum with tension, and Aisha knew they were at a precarious crossroads. Would they rise to the occasion, or falter under scrutiny? Together, she whispered, almost to herself, but the words slipped into the crowd. Together, we can make them see the value of our community. This is just the beginning. As hope flickered anew, a surge of electricity flowed through the crowd. Could it be enough to spark real change? What awaited them in this pivotal moment? Aisha clung to the belief that this was their time. Their journey toward transformation was about to truly begin. Would they be able to pivot and harness this unexpected turn of events? A new chapter loomed, full of potential and peril. The crowd held its breath, caught in a bubble of uncertainty. Aisha could feel her heart pounding in her chest, a wild rhythm echoing the pulse of the room. The official stood before them, unmistakably a gatekeeper, and Aisha suddenly felt the weight of so many aspirations resting on her shoulders. There was a momentary silence, the kind that seemed to stretch and stretch until it crackled with energy. Aisha's mind raced with possibilities. What did he mean by consequences? Was he there to shut them down or to listen? She took a step forward, her voice steady despite the storm inside her. "We're ready to share our vision," she declared, her eyes scanning the sea of hopeful faces. "But first, we need to know, are you here to support us or to put us down?" A murmur spread through the crowd, a nervous tension quickly morphing into a collective breath of solidarity. The airport official shifted slightly, his gaze more focused now, almost challenging. "I'm here to hear what you have to say. But know that change isn't easy. You'll have to battle the system, and it won't happen overnight." Aisha's determination surged. "We know that. But we're not just voices in the wind. We represent a community that's passionate about transformation. We want to create something that fosters culture, art, and connection. This airport isn't just a pit stop, it can be a hub of creativity." The official raised an eyebrow, seemingly intrigued. "And how do you plan to make that vision a reality? What are you prepared to sacrifice?" Sacrifice. The word lingered in the air, heavy and daunting. Aisha looked around, she could see the fire in her friends' eyes. They were ready to fight for their dreams, to step into the unknown. "We're willing to put in the hours, the work, and even some money if need be," she responded, feeling her own resolve strengthen with every word. "We can start small pop-up events, fundraisers, anything that shows our commitment." People in the crowd nodded, whispers of agreement following. "You can count on me," came a voice from the back, and soon others chimed in, pledging support. It was a wave of enthusiasm that reminded Aisha of the very first moments of the gathering, a spark that could ignite a wildfire. The official's expression softened slightly. "If I were to take this to the higher-ups, I need to know it's more than just talk. You need to show that this community can unify and work together." "Yes," Aisha exclaimed, each word bursting with purpose. "We'll document everything, showcase our plans, the community's support. If we can present this as a solid initiative, maybe we can get a trial run." The official smiled faintly, a glimmer of hope shining through skepticism. "All right then. Bring your proposals." But if you want real change, you need to prepare for both success and failure. The stakes are high. As the weight of his words hung in the air, Aisha understood the truth behind them. Her heart raced, fueled by adrenaline and fear. Were they truly ready for this? "Let us assemble a team," Maya whispered in Aisha's ear, her excitement palpable. "We can create a strong proposal. We'll show them what we're about." "Yes," Aisha agreed, her mind racing ahead with possibilities. "Together, we can think bigger. Let us meet tomorrow and start planning. This is our moment." Cheers erupted around them, infecting the crowd with renewed energy. The official stepped back but lingered, watching, as if sensing the shift in the room. Aisha could see at the beginnings of something monumental. A collective heartbeat of hope, knocking against the walls that once felt so solid. As conversations erupted, punctuated with laughter and determination, Aisha turned to face the group. Their eyes sparkled with hope, reflecting her own aspirations. But in the pit of her stomach, doubt still whispered. What if the challenges ahead were more daunting than anything they'd imagined? What if we fail? She thought, the question nagging at her heart. Yet she pushed the thought aside. For today, they were united. Tomorrow, they would rise again. What would become of their ambitious plan? Would they harness the power of their community to forge a path forward, or would they crumble under the expectations and pressures they now faced? The path ahead shimmered with both promise and peril, and Aisha knew they stood at the precipice of something incredible. As the adrenaline surged and the echoes of enthusiasm filled the terminal, Aisha Thompson stood at the nexus of potential and uncertainty. The crowd buzzed with determination, a tapestry of dreams woven together, and she felt the weight of leadership settle comfortably across her shoulders. They weren't mere travelers anymore, they were comrades in a mission. "All right, everyone," Aisha called, her voice rising amid the chatter. "We have our first step. Let's create a core team to outline our proposal." The energy shifted, and heads bobbed, faces shining with renewed purpose. She felt a sense of community swell inside her, a shared heartbeat thrumming loudly as she scanned the crowd. "Who wants to join me?" Aisha continued, eyes gleaming with excitement. One by one, people stepped forward, coming together as they formed a lively huddle. Strangers became allies, smiling and eager, each eager to contribute ideas and skills. "What about design ideas for the community board?" suggested a young woman with vibrant hair, making her presence felt as she dove into details. "We can make it colorful and inviting." "Absolutely. And we need a platform for local artists too." Another voice chimed, a man whose eyes danced with a visionary spark. As the ideas poured out like confetti on a parade, Aisha felt her enthusiasm catch fire. "Let us document everything. We'll gather stories, visuals, and art. Show the airport what a vibrant community looks like." The crowd erupted in cheers again, rallying around the notion. They were on a mission, and motivation surged like rivers carving a path through stone. Nothing could stop them. She took a deep breath, glancing at the official who had first approached her. He stood at the fringes, listening intently. Aisha knew she had to make this connection. "Excuse me, sir," she called out, gesturing him closer. "Can we schedule a follow-up meeting after we draft our proposal? We'd love your feedback." The official nodded, his posture reflecting a subtle shift from aloofness to interest. "Of course, Ms. Thompson. I see potential here, but you'll need to come prepared. I suggest setting tangible objectives that highlight your community's desires." Aisha's heart raced at his words. "We will. This is our chance to be heard, and we won't squander it." As they moved toward a nearby conference room, the bustle in the terminal faded into a gentle background hum. The group filled the space with palpable excitement, ideas bounced off the walls like echoes reminding them of the work ahead. Hours slipped by, filled with brainstorming and collaboration. They created a calendar, planned fundraisers, outlined schedules, and even discussed workshops to empower families and travelers alike with skills they could share. It became clear they weren't just drafting a suggestion, they were crafting a movement. By the end of the day, the bond between them felt electric, yet soft, a newfound respect forged through visions shared amidst coffee cups and laughter. Aisha stole a moment to glance around their makeshift planning room. "Look at us," she whispered, emotion swelling in her throat, "we're stronger together than any one of us could have imagined." Cheers erupted, lifting their spirits even higher, as each person realized they contributed to something larger than just themselves. Finally, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow through the window, Aisha breathed deeply again. They had come so far in just one day. But lingering anxieties trickled through her mind. What would the airport executives really think? Would her community be ready to support this long term? Her phone buzzed, a new message lighting up the screen. "This is just the beginning. Keep the fire alive." Fueled by that simple reminder, Aisha's heart swelled with clarity. They were not just fighting a battle, they were forging a path for the future, grappling with every joy and fear that comes along with that. With that thought humming in her heart, she turned back to her team, their faces a tapestry of determination. "Tomorrow, we take the next step. We outline our proposal, and we fight like hell to be heard." They echoed her words, voices harmonizing in strength as Aisha felt the undeniable power of unity surge through her. "Let us do this," she shouted, raising her fist high. The roar of agreement shook the walls. This was it. The moment she had dreamt of her whole life, the moment where passion met purpose. Together, they would create something real. As laughter and shouts faded into the night, she knew deep down that they would rise, united, a force to be reckoned with. The journey was far from over, it had just begun, and Aisha believed she knew they would keep rising, keep pushing, and keep transforming beyond the skies. But even as they clustered in shared excitement, she reminded everyone, "Don't let this energy fizzle out. Let's keep pushing. Let's keep fighting for what we deserve." And as they broke for the night, Aisha couldn't shake the feeling that their what-ifs would soon turn into "we did it." This wasn't merely a chapter in a book, it was a novel waiting to be written, and Aisha was determined to take the lead. The excitement was contagious, the journey was alive, and from here on, nothing would stop this community from fighting for its voice. And they wouldn't just settle for a seat, they would command a presence. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now, this is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.